In this context, it should also be useful to remember that British government is not a monarchy in the traditional sense of the word, but it is in fact a parliamentary form of government. A parliamentary form of government cannot lose its meaning and content simply because it is another country and the color of the people is different. It is also not true that Indians are incapable of shouldering important responsibilities. It is borne out by the fact that in spite of stiff resistance, the movement for securing basic rights for the Indians is making steady progress. Obviously, Muslims cannot remain unaffected by these developments, and in different parts of the country, they have been asserting their views. But surprisingly, the Muslims of the region, which could be called the head and heart of the country, remain totally cut off from politics. He refers to UP, basically. It is not a natural development, but there are some important impediments which are responsible for this state of affairs. He locates these impediments in the policies of Sir Sayyid. He recounts a number of instances where Sir Sayyid took very bold and independent political stand and comes to the conclusion that it was only the tyranny of the circumstances that compelled such a fearless person to restrain the entire community from participating in the politics of the day. Then he makes a critical appraisal of the Lucknow speech of Sir Sayyid and provides convincing answers to his arguments. He says that it could very well be argued that Sir Sayyid was within his right to prevent the Muslims from joining the Congress, as their needs are both common with the Hindus as well as distinct from them. It would be therefore logical to think that the community needs its own political stage. But at this point, something peculiar appears on the scene in the form of Muslim League. What is this strange-looking, Ajibul Khilqat entity? Is it politics? God forbid, no. Is it anti-Congress? Well, no. Is it House of Lords? Looks like it. Looks like it. The two installments of the article sent shock waves throughout the country, and Shibli was subjected to very harsh criticism, which he terms as inquisition. This led him to write the third installment of his article. In this article, first of all, he makes a scathing criticism of the wrong policies pursued by Muslim League and then proceeds to spell out what he considered to be the correct politics. He says that to understand that present politics is wrong is in fact the key to understanding the correct politics. The notions of wrong politics are so deeply ingrained in the minds of the community that there does not remain much scope for understanding correct politics. Wherever there is any talk of politics, the stock response always is that time has not yet come. We still need to concentrate on education, and this pours cold water on the political sentiments and aspiration, and one returns where one was standing 30 years ago. The most dangerous thing in this regard is the useless and fake entity, ek farzi bekar cheez, Muslim League, is flaunted before us, and it is pretended to be politics. The way the community has been mesmerized for the last 30 years, it unhesitatingly accepts whatever is doled out to it. Therefore, while talking about politics, it is absolutely necessary to understand that Muslim League is not politics today, and it shall not be politics in the next 1,000 years. The following question also need to be taken into consideration in this regard. In what circumstances the League was founded, and what were the people who founded it? The inspiration for this came from within the heart, or it was brought by some angel from above. In this regard, the following issues need to be clearly determined. Does the constitution of the League conform to the requirements of politics? Are the basic elements of politics enshrined in it? Could Muslim League ever serve any worthwhile purpose remaining Muslim League? In this connection, it would be useful to recall that the basis of the League is Shimla deputation, and the spirit of Shimla deputation will continue to pervade it, whatever shape it takes. Basic objective of League was to demand the share for the Muslims in those political rights that the Hindus had won through their hard struggle during the last 30 years. This is the essence, and the rest is simply an adaptation to the situation. The point that is sought to be hammered day and night is the bogey of Hindu hegemony and need for preserving the Muslim identity in the face of Hindu onslaught. He terms the Shimla deputation as the biggest tamasha that was put on the national stage. Then he asks, could it be proper to term mutual conflict and clash among two sections of the subject as politics? According to him, politics concerns a debate about the limits of subjects' participation in the administrative apparatus of the government. This would mean that politics is concerned with the sharing of power between the rulers and the ruled, and not conflict and clash between subjects, which is the objective of the Muslim League. Then he makes a comparative study of the resolution Congress had passed since its inception and the resolution that Muslim League had passed till date, and says that anyone can see the great difference between them. Besides the nature, significance and weight of the resolution, it is also important how they are pursued. If the changes that had taken place in the administration during this period are studied closely, it could be easily discerned that since the Congress began its demand for political rights, there has been steady progress in the direction of self-government under auspices of British rule. Politics is a powerful national sentiment, and when it is aroused in the heart, it works as a great motivating and invigorating force that inspires the nation to great endeavors, sacrifice and exceptionally hard work. But this is not reflected in the attitude of the League, which seems to believe that only saying something is politics and does not entail any hard and concerted effort. In support of his argument, he cites League's demand for separate elections at the municipal level. The principle of separate representation has been accepted for Viceroy's Council and Provincial Council, but these have not been used for any worthwhile purpose. Our representatives in these bodies do not use them for asking constructive questions, putting across reform proposals. They waste their time in petty issues. It is due to the lack of correct political attitude in the League that in its rank and files one can hardly find a person who is prepared to incur some loss for the sake of the politics. He laments that there is none among these self-appointed leaders who could be prepared to dedicate his life like servants of India's society, and there is no institution like Gurukul. Those who think that they are making some kind of sacrifice by attending annual political mela are in fact deceiving themselves. It could be a stage for recreation, show off, but it has nothing to do with sacrifice. The tree is known by its fruits. If our politics should have been real politics, the necessary result must have followed. Toward the end of his criticism of Muslim League, he discusses its basic structure and whether it could ever be possibly corrected and whether the League could ever be willing to give up its basic character. The basic problem that it always looks towards wealth and affluence as the basic qualification for President, Secretary and members of the district office bearers. For all these offices, only those people are sought who have golden sheen on their faces. But in politics, such people do not hold any value because they would never be willing to compromise their status and position. On the other hand, Congress has never offered its offices to such people. At the end of this discussion, he spells out what he calls correct politics and which he wants the Muslim League to follow. Number one, first of all, he wants the Muslim League to expand its area of activity. In addition to those small problems which are specific to any particular community, the League should take up those issues on which the destiny of India depends. As an example, he cites the problem of agrarian settlement, on which the prosperity of the country depends. But the League had never thought about this problem. It is common observation that poor are getting poorer. At the time of every settlement, there is exorbitant increase in revenue demand, which leads to indebtedness, penury and starvation. Many peasants are forced to leave their hearth and home. In spite of all this misery and that comes in its wake, the settlement is repeated every 30 years. In his opinion, introduction of permanent settlement would lead to greater benefit than securing few more jobs for the Muslims. Number two, efforts should be made to ensure that such conditions are created that Indians have an opportunity to participate in all administrative matters. He refers to Gokhale's bill for the creation of district council and considers it as a very fine bill for the general welfare of the country. It is therefore necessary that except for some specific resolutions that concern any particular community, all the resolutions adopted by the Congress should be included in the program of the League, and every effort should be made for their realization in the same way as the moderate Hindus do. Number 3. Recently, Amir Ali has suggested creation